Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I've got a really interesting guest tonight. Laurel Joakimides is her name. She's a dedicated certified life mastery consultant, and she's an author of a really interesting book about leading with legacy. And she's going to talk about this book and about some of the coaching that she does that really comes down to this idea of how some people don't feel like they've got a voice. And I want to ask her about that. So Laurel Joakimides, welcome to the show. You're on a mission to empower individuals to reclaim their inner strength and design a richer, fuller life after setbacks. Interesting. Why did you decide to have this as your mission?
Well, it goes back from a long time ago that I started off, in kindergarten, I had a dream of becoming a teacher because I loved my kindergarten teacher. But by the time I got into the first grade, my voice got squashed by my first grade teacher from an incident that I didn't really realize what was happening. But my first grade teacher ended up putting a dunce cap on my head. And from that, I was labeled stupid and dummy, and that carried with me throughout my life. I struggled with having a voice for all those years, and I still, even now, today, still have difficulty when I get into a situation that is unknown to me. So why I got into the life coaching business, I worked in industry for years, high-tech industry, at various positions up to a management level, operations manager for a small startup. And then I went on to graduate school and got a master's degree. I was going after conflict management to look at the conflict in organizations and how to take the unproductive conflict and turn it into productive conflict.
That's everyone's challenge.
Yes, that was a challenge, but I didn't like what the pundits were saying about conflict in organizations because I had spent 20 years in it. So from there, I was offered a teaching position, and that teaching position gave me a whole new perspective. When I retired from that job from teaching back in 2012, I knew that there was something more inside of me, but I didn't know what it was. And I happened to connect with a woman in a Bible study group, actually, that wanted me to become a guinea pig for her while she got certified in this new style of leadership that was known as strategic futuring.
Strategic futuring. What's strategic futuring?
Strategic futuring is taking your life. It's all about visioning, visioning what you want in life. Because if we don't have a vision, and it's biblical also, but it's also true when you look at it from scientific social sciences, cultures that don't have a vision or a vision period where they're going in life, they perish. And the same is true with individuals. So during the time when I was going through the being the guinea pig for the strategic futuring process, I was questioning, why are you asking me, to my professor friend, why are you asking me so many personal questions? I don't understand this. And she said, just go with the process, stay with it. And midway through, I had an epiphany. I thought, this is so powerful that I want to, this is my direction. This is where I need to go. So from that experience, I found out what my purpose is. And I realized that I don't need to go back into academia where my heart is. I can do this line of teaching.
So in this process of strategic futuring, you figured out what your purpose was.
Yes.
Well, that's inspirational into itself. You talk about how often people lose their voice when they go through a traumatic experience.
Yes.
Why is that?
When I was teaching, the best way I can describe it is to go back when I was teaching, Brian, that I taught a course in listening. And one of the one of the research, I was working with John Gottman's book on his Four Horsemen. And I went into the empathic listening section with that. I was sharing with my students that when we have a crisis, and I didn't have memory of my childhood at this point, that just came about recently. But I said, when we have a significant tragedy or something happens, like 9/11, it imprints on our brain, or and those things we remember. But when it happens to us, something happens to us deeply, that our brain will protect us and it will block it out for years. And that's exactly what happened to me. And the two books that I've written, actually, 2 chapters and 2 books, highlight that. I went through a significant tragedy that sent me spiraling, literally, in 2019. I just thought, if the world came to an end right now, I'd be delighted. And from that, I started writing books, chapters in books.
Are you comfortable sharing what that tragedy was in 2019?
That will come out in a book, and no, I right now I'm not really willing to share that.
Okay,
it's still unfolding.
Okay, I apologize for asking, but sounds like it obviously was profound. And then you've written this book, Leading with Legacy. Is it about finding your voice?
Well, yes, inadvertently. So what the publisher of the book called me and invited me to draft another copy. I draft another article or chapter. She wanted me to do my theme on the road to hope. She knows the history of what I went through in 2019. And at that point, I just thought, hope, there's, what hope do I have? I bounced back. I'm very resilient, so I'll bounce back quickly. But again, I was just thinking, I don't have a voice here. I don't know what to write about this. There's so much.
We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just 2 minutes with Laurel Joakimides, who, as I mentioned, is this dedicated life mastery consultant who's written parts of 2 books on finding your voice and how she is on this mission to empower individuals to reclaim their inner strength and create a richer, fuller life after setbacks, which is something I think all of us encounter. And we need to get that resilience and find that voice that Laurel is encouraging us to do so. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Tonight, we're talking about finding your voice, particularly finding your voice after a setback and being resilient. And our guest is Laurel Joakimides. She is a dedicated certified life mastery consultant. And she says she's on a mission to empower individuals to reclaim their inner strength and design a richer, fuller life after setbacks. And she says whether you're navigating the aftermath of a broken relationship, coping with a job loss, experiencing empty nest syndrome, or know deep inside that you are meant for more but don't know quite how to achieve that, that she provides navigational tools to help you create a life you would love to live by design rather than by default. Navigational tools to help you create a life you would love to live by design rather than by default. A lot of people don't really design their life. They just sort of fall into it. How, Laurel, do you design your life? Is it the strategic futuring you talk about, or is it something else? How do you design your life?
I came to it through the strategic futuring, but since then I've taken other courses in to become certified coach in many different areas. But again, Brian, it goes back to the vision. If we don't have a vision for our life, which is where I was back in 2014, my marriage was about ready to crumble. It was just coming apart at the seams. Basically, we had empty nest syndrome at that point, but it was much more than that. And I knew that I was meant for so much more, but I just didn't have a clue about it. And so when I went through the strategic futuring process, I realized that I could, my heart and soul is in teaching. My heart and soul is in opening up the brilliance that is in other individuals. I mean, every one of us has a seed of brilliance in us. And somehow, some way, some shape, or some form, it gets squashed. And again, back in 2014, I didn't have any recollection. My childhood was blocked from me, completely blocked. So some tragic event happened. I don't know if it was because of the teacher putting a dunce cap or something underneath that, but I have very little recollection of my childhood. But when I started writing these books, that's when it emerged.
So you suggested that there's common reasons why people have difficulty speaking up and finding their voice, or hesitant to speak up in any kind of a group setting. Do you think it's because of something that happened in their childhood, or traumatic events like divorces, or what is it that makes people fearful of speaking up?
Trauma would be one of them, and then it's the saboteur of having us moving forward, for one thing. I mean, that would probably be one of the most significant things. But it can be other things too. It can be lack of representation, for example, or the power dynamics, that you can't compete with things. It happens in organizations all the time. It can go on with your parents. What I did in the study that I did in my master's, for my master's thesis, remember, I was going after organizational communication. But what I ended up doing is going into all the different areas of research: women's studies, psychology, the history of consciousness movement. And I found that the seed of the conflict that's going on is this notion called double bind. So I did my master's thesis on that.
On double what?
Double bind. It's where
double bind, B-I-N-D.
Double bind, not blind, bind. And it's a dynamic that it's more than you're damned if you do or you're damned if you don't. It's much deeper than that, but it's similar to that. It's when no matter what you do, you're wrong. So let me give you an example of losing voice or losing trust in your ability to think. When you get into double bind, or you go through trauma like what I went through, you don't trust people, or you don't trust in yourself, and that impacts every single dynamic in our relationships. It could go from the business world to your husband, your wife, your kids. So the double bind situation, just as an example, and I use this in my first chapter in Women Who Empower. In my first grade classroom, teacher punished us, a few of us, and had us stay behind. One of the little girls in there climbed up as soon as the teacher left the room. One of the little girls climbed up on a shelf and stole candy out of the teacher's candy jar, stuffed it in her panties, and then she sat down. So when the teacher came back into the class, I thought, that's wrong what she did. She stole, for one thing, and she didn't say anything about it. So I told the teacher about it. I said, Claudia stole candy, and there's a lot of it, and you can check her. I'm not lying. She did this. And the teacher punished me. And then she dragged me up. She said, called me a tattletale. And then she grabbed me by the arm, dragged me up to the front of the classroom, sat me down on the stool, and put a dunce cap on me. And I thought, I don't know what I did wrong. I told the truth. My mom always said, never tell a lie, always tell the truth, you won't get in trouble. Well, here I am in first grade, and all of a sudden, it's impacted me my entire life. So I had a lot of trust issues. You get into a dynamic with trust is the foundation of all relationships. And so in my mid-years, when my husband and my relationship was coming apart, there was a trust issue. And I thought, how can I trust you? So we had to work that out. But there are so many things.
You obviously didn't.
Pardon?
You didn't. You didn't
We
work.
did? We did. No, we did work it out. Yeah. We were married 46 years. He just passed 8 months ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. My condolences. So you did work out the trust issue.
We sort of worked it out, but then the tragedy occurred, and then more dynamics, and it just was on and on and on. It was never ending. 5 years, it was never ending.
5 years of lack of trust.
5 years of one tragedy after another, and wanting to step forward, but losing my voice again because I had all these other responsibilities. And my family life was shattered in 2019.
I'm sorry to hear that. You said that there's some societal reasons why people lose their voice as well. What do you mean by that, or societal or cultural?
I would say cultural, and I can go back to my classroom teaching that oftentimes we think, I think the concept back then was that all Asian students are really brilliant. But, that's not necessarily the case. We're all brilliant. We're all really brilliant. And a lot of those Asian students wouldn't speak up. Why wouldn't they speak up? Because I think it's because of their upbringing. And, that they're women especially. I just was speaking yesterday to a woman from Cambodia, and I just happened to ask her the question about voice. Have you ever felt that you haven't had a voice? She says, "Oh my, are you kidding?" Yes. And so she shared her cultural background, and that she wasn't, women weren't able to speak up, and they weren't allowed to smile, and they weren't allowed to cry, and they weren't allowed to do this. And so you get them into a classroom. And my objective was making sure that every voice was heard, and my students felt safe, that it was safe for them to be in the classroom. They weren't going to be judged. And they had complaints about one of the activities that I did at the end of the class. But because I forced them, what have you learned today? We had to do a little ball toss, and I thought, well, this ball toss is stupid. I don't want to do it. But it helped them find their voice within the world, because they had to speak eventually.
The ball toss is that someone throws the ball to the next person, and that person that receives the ball has to speak?
Yes. And it's what they glean from today's lesson.
That's interesting. I went to Harvard Business School, and one of the things it's renowned for is cold calling people. And let me tell you, the first couple of times you get cold called, it's pretty scary. But I do think it's a way of ensuring that everyone is well prepared, and you find your voice. You ensure that you're prepared, because there's that chance that you might be called out of the blue to open the class and
yes.
and tell people what the solution is. You say that there's some strategies that you do teach people to help them find their voice. Other than the ball toss, what are some of your strategies?
Just mostly I teach them to create the vision that's within their heart. So when you go back to my objective,
find the vision that's in their heart.
No, yes, find the dream. So it's dream building, if you will. Okay, so I'm certified in the dream building coaching through the Brave Thinking Institute, which is like a carryover from the strategic futuring that I did. It's more in depth. I help people look at where their strengths are, and I have them look at where their triumphs are and where some of their pitfalls have been, so they understand what it is. We go through a series of longings and discontents. So we know that we long for something better, but we're discontent. with our life because of some of the things that have happened in the background. So we get those out on the table so people can know where they're going, and ask them what they want. What is it that you really want in life? I had students in my classroom that said, I'm here because my mom and dad want me to be. Well, I was an adjunct professor, and I thought, you know what, or their friends, it's the thing to do. I thought, what's in your heart to do? What ticks you off? What do you want to improve upon? We're here to expand, and we're here to grow. And you have everything that you need that's inside of you right now to achieve that. So unearth it, unpack it, help them bring it forward. And then when they see what they really love, what's in their heart to do, they can create a vision. And you plan for a vision that's way out there, maybe 3 to 5 years, because our brain, which is trying to stop us, our voice in there, our little paradigms that are coming and saying, who do you think you are? You can't do that. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You're an imposter. You get that dream out there far enough out, your brain's going to go, okay, well, I don't have to worry about that. And so you don't have to think about it. You don't need to worry about where you're going with it. But envision a life that you would love to have. Just envision it. I envisioned in 2014, I said, okay, well, I didn't know what I was doing with this when I was going through the strategic futuring process. I thought, all right, well, I want a house, beautiful home in Carmel. And I had to create the vision for a day when I woke up 15 years out. And I thought, I'm going to be like 80. How am I, what am I going to do with this? So I created that vision. And then my instructor said, okay, how are you going to get there? And I thought, well, I don't know. So we kept backing out from it. But everything on that list, Brian, I went through like five-year increments. I took 2029, went down to the 5-year increments. Well, what am I going to get there? I mean, I'm just throwing stuff out there. I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I kept going back to the current year. And I had this vision. And I thought, well, that's a pretty cool vision. But I also discovered what my purpose was in life at that point. And I thought, I don't know how I'm supposed to fill this. And how am I supposed to get to this vision if I'm supposed to fill this? And so I don't need to know how. The how will come to me. The how will come. So we teach them how to ask questions, to envision, and to get their voice out. And it comes out. I mean, once you have something to work toward, you're no longer dying inside. You can die a death every single day for 90 years, or you can plan and design your life and start building toward it and take the steps toward it.
So what is your purpose?
My purpose is to help God build his kingdom. And that troubled me significantly. And I know that because as I was going through the process, I thought, I don't know what my purpose is. And it just, a voice, call it a voice, if you will, came to me, the still small voice that said, my life purpose is to help God build his kingdom. I am not a preacher. I have no intention of going to seminary. I still don't. But I know that that's my vision and that brings me life. And I'm getting closer to it almost every day. Writing the book, Leading with Legacy, where I didn't have a voice. I didn't want to share that with anybody because I thought I'm going to get judged. I'm going to get shut down. Whatever else is going to happen. But Leading with Legacy, I almost threw in the towel for that because I didn't have a voice. I thought I can't do this. And it was just like, no, this is what your life purpose is. That still small voice said, get out your journal and write. I'm not done with you yet.
So you say that you work with people to find their dreams. I think you called it what?
Dream building.
What?
Dream building.
Dream building. So if you sat down with me and wanted to help me figure out what my dream was, dream building, how would you do that?
we'd start at the beginning, so let me ask you another question. Ask you a question on top of that, and I'll answer your question. Have you ever felt, you're a radio host, you're a male, have you ever felt like you haven't had a voice?
I think everyone does at different times.
Okay. When would you feel that?
When would I feel that? When I feel under attack. When, the world, I get the sense that the world's out to get me.
When the world's out to get you. Okay. How do you overcome that?
I fight back. I go for walks in nature. I try to calm down and think through rationally. And what I often do, and I've told people this on numerous occasions, is I sit down and I write down what I'd like to be able to say. I practice it, and it becomes something that I'm confident in what my content is and how I might deliver it and what my argument is. And then I throw it out because I don't want to read something, but I've thought it through.
So thank you for sharing that. If you had a magic wand and you could have anything that you wanted, money wasn't an issue, time wasn't an issue. If you could have anything that you wanted, what would that be? Magic wand.
I'd like to be Prime Minister of Canada.
You'd like to be what?
Prime Minister of Canada.
Prime Minister of Canada. Okay.
Because I think I could make a real positive difference in our political system and in our world today. I know that's stupid, but it's the truth.
No, not at all. Nothing is stupid. Okay, so that would be your vision, that you would want to be the Prime Minister of Canada. By when would you want to do that?
Well, it's never going to happen because
that's your discontent. That's your voice coming out. When would you make that happen? There's no constraints. You've got that magic wand. I can have anything that I want.
Okay, so let's bring it down. So one of the things that I use my radio show for is to try to have an impact on some policy positions. And one of them is what we're talking about, is the idea that people can accomplish more and that they can have a voice.
Yes.
I told you I just interviewed someone that was chatting about women's rights and that there's a role for people that believe in feminism and at the same time motherhood. And I think that that's something that we haven't allowed to the extent we need to. And so it's so I try to use my radio show as a way of, number one, meeting fascinating people like yourself, but then number two, being able to give voice to some policies and issues that I'm passionate about. And so I think at times, and maybe you disagree with this, but at times the ultimate dream isn't attainable, but you can find other ways to attain your dream and have some positive impact on your dream. And you talked about you wanted to have God's kingdom or build God's kingdom here on earth. I think that there are, I think having the whole world be a kingdom may be challenging, but could you have your neighborhood, your town, your city be that kind of way, be more trusting and have greater justice and more equity and et cetera? I think that is very attainable. So it's the old adage of start with yourself, then your family, then your neighborhood, before you try to conquer the world.
So, thank you, brilliant. So what I'm doing is basically what you're doing. You wanted a radio show to help people do this. I have a coaching practice now, an entrepreneurial business going on right now, so I can help people envision where they want to be. We don't have to worry about how we're going to get there or why we're going to get there. And that vision will change. It'll start morphing. But what I would love people to do, and it takes time, it takes effort, and it's fearful, it's scary, having to do things. But you have within you everything that you need to achieve what you want to achieve. everything. And so we go through a step-by-step process to get you there. But you can't get there. You can't say, well, I want this beautiful house in Carmel across the street from the ocean without building a blueprint of it. Well, what's the house look like? I have to have that blueprint. So what I do with people is I let them know everything happens twice. You think about, you have a thought, and then you have that thought's there, and then it becomes a material object. All right, so we have to start with that. So we build a blueprint, and then we look at where the gaps are. So that would be the bridge building. Look at those gaps. And then we take the action step, the building part. So there are 3 steps, and it doesn't happen overnight.
It sure doesn't.
But it gives you a purpose for life. Your purpose is to expand the political network or the personal development through voice. And so for our listening audience today, it's for those of you that feel that you don't have a voice, it doesn't matter. You don't have to go into coaching. You don't have to go into radio broadcasting. Maybe you want to play music because that's filling your heart. Maybe you're a dancer. Maybe you're a plumber. Maybe you're, a rodeo show person. Maybe you're a surfer. What brings you life? We're here on this planet. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so this is our playground. We can be anything that we want.
We can be anything we want. We're chatting with Laurel Joakimides, who is a dedicated certified life mastery consultant and a very inspirational person, as we're finding out. We're going to take a break, though, for some messages and be back in just 2 minutes with Laurel. Stay with us, everybody. This is encouraging and inspirational. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're chatting tonight about future dreaming, or dreaming your future and constructing your future and finding your voice and the blueprint on how you're going to achieve that future. It's fascinating with Laurel Joakimides. She is a certified life mastery consultant. She's an author, and she describes herself as being on a mission to empower individuals to reclaim their inner strength and design a richer, fuller life, particularly after setbacks. Laurel, I wonder if you could talk about how you think teachers or facilitators can create a more supportive environment that encourages everyone to participate and use their voice. You mentioned this idea about the ball toss. Are there other things that teachers should be doing?
I don't know if they should be doing them, but it's just something that I did, and I had great success with it. I made learning fun, for one thing. I would give the students just bizarre activities to do. I'm an experiential. I'm actually all 3 of them. I'm visual, I'm audio, and I like to have the kinesthetics. I want to practice what I'm learning. But what I did with my students was I posed a question for them. I planned on my public speaking class. They had to be challenged to give a speech in front of the classroom, which was really hard for everybody. I didn't like it any more than what my students did. So I tried to make it fun and safe for them to do it. But the ball toss came a little bit later because I thought, I need to open up this and other courses that I taught. The ball toss is just a little teeny, like a koosh ball, I guess is what you would call it. I'm not sure what the title is. Just something very soft that they could toss around. But in my critical decision-making courses and all my other ones, actually, I would save about 15 minutes at the end of the class and have a deep dive discussion where I would have 3 or 4 students that would get into the center of the room. We all sat in a circle. I give them a question, and we had a talking stick, if you will. I didn't have anything to start. So I gave them a pen or just something that I had in my hand. They had to listen. to the speaker. Nobody could interrupt. And just answer the questions to the best of their knowledge or their opinion. Didn't matter what it was. Then they would hand it off. I had one student that ended up liking the thing so much that he made me a little talking stick. He carved it all out for me, and it was fun. But showing your students the respect that they deserve and is the way for me to earn their trust and their respect. So I don't think because I'm the teacher or I'm the leader of the group that they need to respect me. It's no, I have to show them, everybody, my respect for them as well. I had students, I was told I'm a very touchy-feely type of person. I like to put my hand on people, I mean, respectfully put my hand on a student's shoulder. I walked around the classroom. Even when they were in a circle, I'd walk around the classroom and just be right there with them to show them my love and trust and respect. But what they did with that, Brian, is that their voices opened up. They didn't like it at first because they're on the spot, everybody's watching them. But they loved it because they could actually share their opinions. I had one student, I was told as an instructor not to ever speak about religion in the classroom and not to have the students speak on politics because there's no way you can come to a happy ending with that. My students were chomping at the bit to talk about both topics. One of the students said during the trust, so in answer to your question, trust. Do you want me to keep going with this? I will.
Yeah, please tell us.
Okay. There was one student I was teaching at Cabrillo College in California, and very progressive California and liberal. And this one student wanted to talk about it was during President Bush and Al Gore, Vice President Al Gore's battle for presidency. One student in the classroom wanted to talk about George Bush, why we should vote for George Bush. And I said, you are more than welcome to talk about that, but just know that you're going to get hammered. You're going to get hammered in this classroom for that, for whatever you say. So you have to be prepared, fully prepared for it. And he said, well, I want to make sure that I win favor with you. And I said, the only way you're going to win favor with me is your argument, and your ability to get some of the students' blinders off so they can think differently. But he did that and he got hammered. But the students at the end said, bravo for having the guts to do that, for finding your voice and doing that, giving us this information. So it opened up a lot of students' eyes. Didn't mean that they were going to vote for Bush, certainly, and we don't know, and it wasn't the point. But to get the students to think, ask different questions that will get them to challenge them to think. That's why they're here in school, not to find the answer like chicken soup, instant chicken soup.
We seem to be living in a world, in a society today where people, are restricted in what they can say. How do we, as a society, make people feel comfortable using their voice, finding their voice?
I think the more you use it, for me, the more I use my voice, I would just get incensed when somebody would say, challenge me with something. Going to graduate school, for example, I had 4 people on my committee for my, when I was put my prospectus together for my master's thesis on double bind. One of my professors said, Laurel, what makes you think I'm paraphrasing here, and these aren't his words exactly, but the bent is there. Laurel, what makes you, this lowly graduate student, think that you can challenge the top scholars in the field on double bind and this, that, and the other thing? What makes you think you're so smart that you can challenge them? And I just sat there looking at him, and I just said, and it was a double bind happening. It was the very thing that I was studying. And I thought, you know what, Professor, I said, I don't think I'm smarter than these other professors that have told us about how we're to communicate and the ways in which we're to communicate. And that because there's not a lot of research left on this topic or at all, 10 dissertations on it and then it stopped dead. I have a different point of view. They've thrown us into a cul-de-sac. I believe I can pull us out of the cul-de-sac. I can get us out.
That's great.
So I could have crumbled at that point. And that's, I think, because I had my students challenge me and I understood what was going on with that professor at that point.
Well,
I thought, no, don't you dare try to stop me. This is too critical. This is something that I feel passionate about, and I'm going for it, even if I don't get through the school, get my degree.
That's great. You said you wanted to also talk about the importance of empathy.
About the what?
The importance of empathy in making sure people feel heard and understood.
Yes. Empathic listening is not, empathy is not something that all of us hold inside of us. I think it's a learned skill. Listening, actually, many colleges and universities don't teach listening. I was fortunate to be hired at Cabrillo College, where I had to learn how to listen myself because I wasn't very good at it either. But empathy was one of the topics that we had to use. And I can say that it's different from sympathy and it's different from compassion. It's actually getting inside the shoes or walking in the moccasins, walking a mile in the same moccasins as somebody else has. So it gives you that feeling inside, that deep empathic sense that you can feel what somebody else is feeling. So for example, I just lost my husband, somebody that I was angry at for a good portion of my married life, but loved him just the same. But when I hear of, since that time in my church, for example, I've met a lot of widowers and widows, and I know what they're going through now. I mean, I know that. The tragedy that I went through, suicides and deaths, other forms of death in my family, I feel that in other individuals' hearts. I feel that not having a voice within my students, that I know that they didn't have a voice, pulling it out of them, nurturing it out of them, and saying, it's okay, you're strong enough, you can do this. I've got your back. I believe in you. If you don't believe in you, believe in my belief in you.
Laurel Joakimides, this has been really interesting. Thank you very much for joining us. If people want to buy your book, how do they best do that?
On Amazon. You can. The books are on Amazon, and on there's an audiobook out right now that just got released in January, and that's on the Leading the Legacy. I would highly recommend the audiobook because the authors are actually reading the stories themselves, and or you can get it at Barnes & Noble.
This has been a really interesting conversation. I really appreciate you joining us. We're going to take a final break, and when we come back, I'm going to provide you all with a few of my thoughts on how you can tackle this challenge of trying to figure out what your purpose is in life, what your dreams are in life, what you want to achieve, and how to go about doing it. Some things that have worked for me. Stay with us, everyone. Back in a few minutes. Laurel, thank you so much.
Thank you.